Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got a great show for you tonight. Of course, we are on the eve of the first round of the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. And, of course, we're going to start off with another great round of Coach's Corner. I got a couple of great gentlemen that have been on the show, of course, a number of times before, but agreed to come back here, as I said, on the eve of the first round and talk a little bit about golf and see if we can help some of you out there and give you a little bit more, understanding of what they do and how they're able to help some of you golfers out there from both the fitness side of things and the coaching side of things as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about with both of them, and I'll bring them out here in just a second. But let me remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that's 7 to 9 for those of you on the East Coast. And I believe 4 to 6 for you on the West Coast. Great to have you join us here. And if you want to share the link for Golf Talk Live, go to blogtalkradio.com, and up in the search key, you type Golf Talk Live, or you can complete the full link, and it's blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. And always appreciate those of you that help circulate that link around. And we've got some great listeners from all over the world, literally virtually every country around the world tune into the program each and every week, and I appreciate and just love each and every one of you for doing that. Thank you for all of your continued support, and thanks for some of the great feedback that I get each week as well, not just from those that are on the show, but those that tune in each week as well. So thank you very much for that. If you're interested in calling in during the show, we're always welcome to do so. At any time, whether it be during the Coach's Corner or later on when I interview guests and things like that, you're always welcome to call in. The number to call is area code 646-716-4667, or you can email your questions or comments to me personally at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com if you have comments about the program. Or if you're somebody in the golf industry and you feel you got something that you want to share with my audience, I'd be more than happy to arrange a time for you to come on. And again, you can email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Excuse me. Also, if you want updates on the show, go on social media, facebook.com, and just type in Golf Talk Live blog. Make sure you have blog on the end there. And while you're there, make sure that you throw a like on the page as well. But that update the show each and every week on the Facebook page as well as my personal page. So any of you that surfing around on Facebook and looking for something to do, check out Golf Talk Live blog, and that will give you the updates of the show and who's going to be on that week. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. Thank you again for all of the recent followers on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO, and of course CEO is in capital letters. Or you can also visit the Golf Talk Live website at golftalkliveblog.com, and you can check out for any updates and things there as well. As I said, I got a great show for tonight on the cusp, if you will, of the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay. We're going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. But first up, I got two great guys, Bob Foreman and Matthew Cook, and let me just tell you a little bit about each of them, and then I'll bring them on to join me here for the panel discussion tonight. Bob Foreman, of course, as I said, has been on here many times before, as not only as a guest, but also as a panelist on Coach's Corner. He holds a Master of Science degree in exercise physiology. He's also certified as a golf fitness instructor through the Titleist Performance Institute, or TPI for short. And he's also a certified personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine. He's going to be joining me here in just a second. Also rounding out the panel is Matthew Cook, also another favorite on the panel. He's been here a number of times as well. He's a PGA coach, and he's PGA certified both here in the U.S. and also in the U.K. He's also co-founder of Leap Golf in the U.K. and creator of Game Like Training. We're going to talk to him a little bit about that as well throughout the program. Guys, welcome back to Golf Talk Live.
Thanks for having us back, Ted.
Thanks, Ted. Pleasure being back.
I hope I got everything right, and apologize if I don't. I do want to just say one quick thing, guys, and I hate to start a show on kind of a little bit of a sour note, but I think I would be remiss given the circumstance. I would sincerely like to give a heartfelt condolence and just empathy going out to those out in the South Carolina area right now, in the Charleston area. Obviously, there's been a recent tragedy, which we've all been hearing about here in the news. A young gentleman went into a church in the Charleston area and, of course, gunned down 9 of the, including, I believe, one of the pastors there as well. And I would just like to express my condolences and heartfelt sympathies to the families and to the others in that church as well on behalf of myself and my supporters. We would just want to wish you all the support and love from really all over the world for what you're going through right now. And it's just such a tragedy. And we hope that we can get the resolution to this as quickly as possible. And we just hope that you know that you're in our thoughts and prayers this evening as you move forward. On that note, guys, obviously we want to talk about some great golf. So here's what I'm going to do a little bit differently tonight on Coach's Corner, if you don't mind. Again, we're on the cusp of the U.S. Open, so we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But Bob, I know that you've been on, as I said, many times before, and we know that you've got a lot of experience in the fitness side of things. So I want to ask you some specific questions, if you will, dealing with the physical side of things. And then, Matthew, I'm going to also bring you in as well and talk maybe on the teaching and coaching side of things and sort of wrap it up in that perspective. So, Bob, let me just start with you. And this was a question, actually, Bob was on my other program, The Women of Golf, which was kind of interesting because you didn't know I did that show, did you?
No, I didn't.
And I think your response to me when I reached out, Cindy Miller, of course, LPGA professional Cindy Miller, co-hosts that with me, and that's every Tuesday mornings here on blogtalkradio.com from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Bob was a guest of ours, I believe, 2 weeks ago. And when I got the memo from Cindy, and she said, "Oh, Bob Foreman's going to be on," I thought, "No, this can't be a coincidence." And I reached out to Bob and said, "Wow, you're going to be on my other show." And he says, what was it, something you said, I get around or something like that?
Yeah, geez, I didn't realize you were affiliated with that show as well. When I contacted Cindy and, to see if she wanted to do a golf fitness segment, she said, yeah. And then when you sent me the email, I was like, man, this guy's all over the map.
Well, you know what? I certainly a lot of ladies. I've had lots of feedback from this show. A lot of ladies do tune into the program, but I wanted to sort of create something a little bit unique and a little bit special, geared towards the women's market. And when I first, actually, it was kind of interesting. Let me just very quickly, and then we'll jump into things. When I first approached Cindy Miller about this, it really was more to get her as a guest on the show. And when I told her kind of what the format was and what I was planning on doing, she said, "Can I come in on this with you? Can I help, co-host the show and work together with you on this?" So that's kind of how that all started. But and she's just been a fabulous partner in that venture as well, and just had a lot of great professional ladies, Kathy Whitworth, Rosie Jones, and just a whole host of other business professionals as well come on there that really help grow the game in the women's market. So that's the Women of Golf show. Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on blogtalkradio.com. All right, Bob, I'm going to start, as I said, with you. And one of the questions that we actually talked back on that show, I want to ask you again here because we have a lot of crossover in our audience. I want you to share some of the common physical deficiencies that a lot of golfers experience and how they can impact their swing mechanics and injury potentials.
Yeah, there's probably about 7 or 8 of them that come to the forefront, and it happens probably as frequently in women as it does men. But one of the biggest things that I see is tightness in the hamstrings, which are the muscles in the back of the thigh. That one tends to be more predominant in men, and with tight hamstrings, because the hamstrings attach to the hip bone, it can limit the freedom of movement in the hip. So when you're looking to pick up your explosive hip speed, like a Rory McIlroy, you may have a tough time doing that because of the fact you've got this tight band holding the bone in place. Tight hamstrings are also very prevalent and lead up to low back issues. So, I mean, there's a dual-edged sword there by having tightness in the hamstrings. On the other side, women tend to be more predominantly tight in the hip flexors, which are the muscles more or less in the front part of the hip. And, again, because they attach to the hip bone, it may limit somewhat the freedom of movement. But the tightness in the hip flexors also has an impact on the lower back because when they're tight, they take the hip and they kind of rotate it forward and they increase the arch of the lower back and you produce a little bit more sway back. And that shows up as an S posture when you're standing over the ball at address. And, again, that's more predominant in women and young kids. And that'll just destroy your back. Yeah. So, two big areas there in the lower body, and then you also have the internal hip rotators, which are the third muscle group affiliated with, again, the hip. And, again, that's very common to see tightness in that, extreme tightness in that. And for some odd reason, I would say about 75 to 80% of the golfers that I've assessed, for some odd reason, the target leg tends to be tighter than the trail leg. So as the golfer's trying to swing through impact and get the hips open, it's more difficult to do because the internal hip rotators are tighter to that side and they just won't allow that rotation. So, these deficiencies not only lead up to inefficiencies in the golf swing and kind of rob you of performance, but they also can lead up to injury.
Yeah, and it's important. I don't think people, and we were saying off air, I mentioned to you about one of the reasons why I really enjoy having you on, talk about the fitness side of things, is I think a lot of people are under this misconception that when we talk about fitness, that means they've got to rush down to the gym and spend an hour or two in the gym and, they're lifting weights and they're doing squats and all these other, muscle building exercise. And that's just really not the case. But it is important that they do have some sort of a fitness regimen. Now, one of the things that I know that you do, Bob, that you're very good at is you do an assessment really up front and just to sort of see where things are with individuals. Tell us a little bit about what you do there and then what you normally do as a follow-up once you've got the assessment, what you do then and how you advise some of your people you're working with.
Sure. I mean, really, the thing that I do is help the golfers identify where their physical deficiencies are. And when I say physical deficiencies, I'm referring to tight muscles, weak muscles, and or imbalances in the muscle. And so I take them through a series of mini components which are designed to draw out those deficiencies. And there are specific correlations between the various muscle groups and those deficiencies and swing faults, as well as injury potential. So once you identify what those deficiencies are, you now can design a customized program to help the golfer correct those deficiencies. And in a relatively short period of time, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you can have a major impact on correcting those faults and those deficiencies, and that's just going to help the golfer swing a more efficient golf club and reduce the risk for potential. So, and the assessment really doesn't take all that long to do. There's a bunch of TPI stuff that I do. I've been studying a lot of Gary Gray from the Gray Institute. He does movement science, which is a really up-and-coming field, a very interesting field. I throw some of his stuff in, and then some of the stuff that I've worked with over the past 30 years with low back injury. So once you paint that snapshot, you have a pretty good roadmap of where you need to take this individual.
Yeah, and it's important. And the thing is too, about the fitness side of things, it's really something that you always hear a lot of, especially the older golfers say, well, I don't really, I'm 60 odd years old and I just don't have time to do that and what's the point? But really this is something that golfers of all levels really need to adhere to. And there's certainly things that you can adjust and tailor, factor in age and physical abilities and things like that. And there are some people that might have some physical challenges that are going to fall into your assessment as well. But it is important, is it not, for everybody really of all levels, if they want to play better golf, that this is something that they need to address. It's not just a matter of swing mechanics and things like that. It's a matter of how fit you're able to get yourself into and how flexible you're able to get yourself.
Oh, definitely. And as I said, I've assessed hundreds of golfers, and I have yet to have anybody go through the assessment and pass every single component, and that's juniors up through seniors, even some tour players. Again, once you have this information, it's like a gold mine because then you can just target specific exercises. So it's very time efficient. You're not wasting your time doing exercises because a lot of people just don't like to exercise.
Sure.
So you're not wasting your time with exercises that you may not need. You're really focusing on correcting those deficiencies, and that makes a huge difference. In your, as I say, your swing efficiency, distance, ball contact, and the way you feel the next day or two after you play around the golf.
Well, and what's interesting, and Matthew, I want to get you to jump in here as well. I think what's interesting is a lot of people, especially as we get a little bit older, the younger players is a little bit different, but some of the older players, they're looking for equipment as opposed to maybe changing themselves. And again, I'm not saying you have to go out and pump iron like Schwarzenegger or did used to, or be a weightlifter or anything like that. But you do have to look at your physical side as a really part of your equipment. And if you've got a good physical component, if you're in reasonably good shape and you're flexible and so forth, a lot of players obviously focus on equipment. A lot of the older players, especially, they're going, well, maybe if I get that new driver that so-and-so is making, I'm going to get all those extra yards. Matthew, you see a lot of things as a coach and as a teacher of golf. You see a lot of things, and obviously physical fitness, being a young guy yourself, is certainly important, and it's something I'm sure that you stress, particularly with your junior golfers, to get them started right from the get-go, correct?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, everything I've just listened to from Bob is like everything I believe in. Golfers, regardless of their age, they need to take into consideration the fitness aspect, because ultimately your golf swing, whether you're looking at the mechanics or whatever you're looking at in regards to your golf swing is fitness. It's your body. So from, if you're working with juniors and like really young juniors, then you look at, and I'm sure Bob knows much more about this than me, but things such as fundamental movement skills, because that's fitness training in a way. And then the majority of teenagers that I've worked with and work with, they're not necessarily working on fundamental movement skills, but they're still working on how their bodies move.
Yeah.
And then the older guys, you could stand and work with a guy that's in his late 50s or 60s, and you could try and get the club in certain places, believing that he's gonna hit the ball so much better. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what the guy's body's gonna do, if you don't know how the guy's body is or what it's capable of doing, then you're never gonna reach that goal that you have in mind. So, I fully believe in fitness for all the ages, regardless.
Well, and I think too, Matthew, that you probably see a big difference in some of the younger golfers coming up in today's market than maybe what it might have been a few years ago, and that's certainly the help of players, obviously like Tiger Woods, that came in there a few years back and was very fitness oriented as well, and made that part of his daily regimen. And suddenly you saw on the PGA Tour and even on to some degree on the LPGA Tour, suddenly the trailers and whatnot came out, the fitness trailers, and now everybody's getting into it because they realize that, hey, this young guy came out when Tiger came out in '97, and hello world. Suddenly this young little whippersnapper was hitting the ball past everybody, and he was making some good shots, and he just had a lot of energy. And I think it took a lot of people by shock, and some of the older players. So I'm sure you see a lot of that now with some of the juniors still. And again, I'm not saying that they're getting into some, regimented fitness routine necessarily, all of them, but I'm sure you're starting to see people coming up through the ranks that are especially the more serious players, recognize the importance of a good fitness routine.
I mean, I work with some students, and I work with some students, and they're huge. I'm like talking to the student. They might be 16, 17 years old, and the guys are bigger than me.
Yeah.
They really are. They're like they could be a quarterback or running back or whatever you call it in American football. But they're athletes. You see, it's transformed. The world of golf has transformed over time. Like when I was playing in college, if you see me in person, I'm not overweight. Yet I'm not, I'm not a well-built guy. But I never valued fitness when I was playing college golf because I was never really taught and educated on the importance of it. Because back then, and it wasn't that long ago, but back then it wasn't the thing, we were all still about the technology and the mechanics of the swing rather than going more into the body. PTI was only just, kind of there and thereabouts and just starting to build. So it wasn't, the fitness aspect wasn't really stressed to me when I was playing college golf. But now, some of these kids are coming through and the machines.
Yeah, it's incredible when you see what's available now. And as I said just a moment ago, in the PGA Tour, particularly shortly after Tiger came on the scene, suddenly you had an entourage of fitness trailers and whatnot being made available because they just saw the power that this at that time this kid was bringing, and really he wasn't that big at that point. It wasn't until a few years into his career that you really started to see him bulking up and that. And then suddenly, just everybody was hitting that fitness trailer and working out. So there's definitely a benefit from it. And I want, I really want people to understand. I would much rather them spend time with somebody like you, Bob. Getting an assessment, finding out where their deficiencies are, in their bodies, and working on those as much as working on their golf game, because I think what ends up ultimately happening is it's like any sport. If you've got a bad back or you've got certain issues that you're dealing with, there's barring any chronic issues, of course, but if you've got deficiencies in the calves or in the glutes and things like that, that is certainly going to affect your game. And a lot of people don't realize that. And as I said earlier, they tend to go out and try to find. It's like everything else in life now. It's a Band-Aid. Let's find something to fix the sort of over top issue and not the underlying issues. Let's not address what the root cause is. And Bob, I know you see that all the time. So I want to ask you this question here, and this is more really for both of you, but I want to get on Bob's perspective first, and then Matthew, I want you to from sort of the drill side of things. Everybody talks about really a smooth takeaway in the golf swing, starting the club back slowly. Excuse me. Pardon me, guys. Bob, is there anything that can really help do that? And let me clarify what I mean by that. There are certain muscles in the body that when they're in the right mode, if you will allow people to take things in a smooth. If you've got a lot of tension or a lot of cramping in your muscles, it's going to be very jerky. Are there things that golfers can do to help sort of make that smooth transition in their backswing?
Oh, definitely. There's a common deficiency in a lot of golfers where we see tightness in their mid-back area, the thoracic spine area. And, when you watch golf on TV, you hear the comment about a smooth extension in the backswing. And what a lot of teaching pros, and I'm sure, again, Matthew can address this, is to help people gain a little bit more power in their swing is to really reach back in their backswing with the club and maintain that as you bring the club through the backswing. Unfortunately, though, a lot of people, as I say, have tightness in their back, in their mid-back T-spine area. and that holds them actually from prevents them from really making a good shoulder turn, which is one of the power moves that you read in all the golf publications. Almost every month, I mean, somebody has an article about the shoulder turn. So if you're tight in that area, it's going to be difficult for you to really make that good shoulder turn. So again, you're robbing yourself of the ability to generate some decent club head speed and distance. The other part is you see a lot of breakdown in the arms, especially the left arm, as the individual is bringing the club back. And number one, that's also affiliated with the tightness in the back because the individual is just trying to get the club back further, but they can't rotate the upper body, so they compensate by bending the arms, and that basically shortens the arc of the swing. And when you shorten the arc, basically, again, you're robbing yourself of developing good power in the downswing. So, if you isolate some stretches for the mid-back area, you can really enhance your swing. And again, because so many golfers have that tightness, it's probably something you should do anyway. And then strengthening of the tricep muscle in the back of the arm so that you can hold that nice straight left arm as you're coming back for a right-handed golfer. Mm-hmm. Keep that that left arm nice and straight as you're making that good turn. So it's a combination really of those two. And then later, let's go back to Tiger. You had mentioned about Tiger and his fitness and stuff like that, but I want to talk about overuse because, playing golf in itself will develop deficiencies in the body, and that's why it's important to go through that physical assessment. So let's talk about that later too.
Yeah, that's true, and it's, as I said, it's great to get out there and play golf, but if you're not preparing yourself physically, a lot of people don't understand that golf is a lot more physical of a sport than what they realize. Just because you're not getting hit by a 300-pound linebacker or something like that, it certainly has its own physical challenges. And if you're not in keeping yourself in proper shape and you're not working on the areas as you discussed, Bob, it can certainly creep up later on in life. Matthew, I want you to sort of answer that question as well, but more from the physical side, if you will, from some drills and things that you do. Obviously, a smooth takeaway, a good start to the backswing is crucial in making that transition, as Bob talked about, to come back into impact and then into the follow-through. What are some things that specifically that you have or that you use in order to encourage your students to make that smooth transition in the backswing?
Well, and, there's tons of different ways, right? I think first you have to, see what they are capable of doing with the body, and first see what kind of person they are, what kind of player they are, because, if you have a student, and I've experienced this in the past, if you have a student he talks quick, he walks fast, and he's a very quick personality, and he's a very quick type of person, then his swing is going to be in alignment with who he is as a person.
Sure.
His smooth takeaway is actually going to be a little bit quicker than maybe somebody else. Whereas, somebody such as myself, I'm quite. I walk relatively slow. I'm not so quick. I'm a little bit more laid back, and my golf swing, is highly in alignment with me as a person. My backswing is much slower and smoother, but I think it really depends on the person. But, things such as putting a golf ball behind the club head of the ball and just, pushing it away nice and smoothly. My favourite one, and I stole this actually from Ian Highfield. All good people steal, don't they? They don't borrow. So one with rhythm, tempo and tension, which really helps with that takeaway in the backswing. If you have people that are quite tense and tight, they're not smooth in the takeaway. So I get this one. I stole this one from Ian, and I just have players, tense all their body, their hands, their legs, everything in their body as tight as they can on a scale of 0 to 10. Tight as they can mean 10. I have them go to 10. Then I have them come down. I dial down from 10 to 9, 8, all the way to 1 to 0. So they're almost feeling like they're on the ground. And then we hit shots nice and loose. and it really helps them have an awareness of what really tight is and what loose is, and it's easier for them to find that smooth takeaway in the backswing, and then they can personalize it for their personality.
Well, and you know something too, and let me just add to this, and then you know if you want to have a follow-up comment, that's fine. You know, last week on the show, I had a great guest, professional golfer Monty Scheinblum, who was on the show, and we talked about this very thing. And you know, we talked about some of the different golfers that, you know, if you look back in history, come to mind. Of course, Freddie Couples and the Big Easy, Ernie Els, had very sort of slow and smooth takeaways. And then you had somebody like Nick Price, who was much like what you were talking about, some of the students that's a little bit faster paced. Tempo is something that I think that students really, as an instructor or as a coach, you really want to sort of do that, your own sort of assessment, much like Bob does for the physical side in assessing some of the deficiencies. You want to be able to assess your students' really rhythms and tempos, if you will, because that's going to dictate how you handle them, correct?
Yes, 100%, yeah. And there is a way that I do that. And you just simply, what I do is simply just play a few golf balls out wherever we are, and I just ask them to hit a shot at 10%. Then I'll ask them to hit a shot all the way from 10% all the way to 100%. And you can tell just by looking if they make differences. Generally, if someone's not, generally if someone struggles with this, that 10% is the same as the 60% all the way through. And then they'll get to 80 and 90% and they'll just swing all out. They don't really have an awareness of different speeds and different tempos.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember another drill that Nick Faldo did in one of his earlier videos with when he was still working with David Ledbetter. He actually did something similar. He lined up about I think it was 4 or 5 golf balls in a straight line on the practice tee, and he just started with the first one and hit it, and then sort of walked into the next shot, and without really missing a beat, he didn't stop and regroup. He just sort of, and really what he was doing with that was really to sort of build his rhythm and his tempo and just sort of really have an effortless swing. And he did that as well. Again, I think it was more designed to get a feel for his tempo and his rhythm. And I think a lot of people misunderstand. They see a golfer, for instance, you might have a player that has, as you said, maybe a little faster talker, a little faster mover, and they want to swing like Freddie Couples. And I'm not talking about the actual specific mechanics, or even, let's say, Ernie Els is probably a better example because he doesn't have that sort of loop at the top. But, a player that's sort of a very slow, methodical-looking swing, even though really it's not. If you look at Monty and I talked about this last week. If you look at the club head speeds that both of these guys generate, it's quite astounding. But when you look at them from the outside, it looks like they're just very effortlessly bringing the club back and going through, but they're actually going with quite a bit of speed. And I think one of the problems that a lot of players have is, and this is something I think where a good coach comes in, is they will take a player will see somebody on TV or somebody on a video that they want to emulate, but maybe they have an opposite body design, or they might have an opposite tempo or rhythm than that individual. So it's not good to try to force somebody or allow yourself to do something that somebody else is doing just because you like the way it looks. So this is something else, right? Correct?
Oh yeah, if I have Tiger Woods in my mind and I try and make a golf swing like his, I'll pull my back. I'll last 3 holes if I try and do what Tiger Woods does.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important. Excuse me. Pardon me. It's important that as coaches and as instructors that we're mindful of that. Bob, I want to bring you back in here. I've got a specific question for you as well. We've all heard of tennis elbow. There's obviously golfer's elbow. What are some of the causes of golfer's elbow and some of the treatment and maybe even some preventative exercise that can help limit that scenario? Yeah,
tendinitis is a big injury in golf. And golfer's elbow is characterized as that discomfort on the medial aspect of the elbow, where tennis elbow is on the outside part of the elbow. A lot of it comes from, the thing with injury that you got to keep in mind is that the point of pain is not always the cause of pain.
Mm-hmm.
So with the elbow, a lot of times it's due to the fact that we have imbalances in our forearm. Our flexor muscles, which are on the underside of the forearm, tend to be stronger than the extensor muscles on top of the forearm. And that's because we're just constantly gripping things all day. So we're using flexors. We're not doing anything to, pushing the fingers open against resistance, so we don't really balance that out. So that imbalance leads to things like, carpal tunnel that many people experience when they're typing in the old days, or today, the modern world with the mouse and stuff like that. But it also impacts the elbow, and it also can impact the shoulder. Now, the second thing that you want to take a look at, factor that you want to take a look at with elbow tendonitis, is range of motion in the shoulder. And a lot of times, if an individual lacks range of motion in the shoulder, rotation, especially in golf, external rotation. So if you put your hand up into the Girl Scout or Boy Scout sign, and then from there just rotate your forearm back to see how far you can go, you want to get to about 110 degrees, with 90 being the Boy and Girl Scout sign. If you can't get to that 90 degree, you're really tight. If you can't get past that 90 degree very far, then you have some tightness, and that could be impacting your elbow. Now, what's interesting is that the treatment for tendonitis in the elbow is changing a little bit, in that the old days, I mean, there's probably still a lot of it going on now, but, people, they go to the extremes and they get the cortisone shots.
Yeah.
Now, from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing is that tendonitis is really not, in the elbow, is not really an inflammation, a true inflammation. So cortisone really doesn't really do that much. I mean, cortisone just masks the pain anyway, and you got to be careful because you still have the injury. So what they're doing now, a lot of what they're going to is this platelet replacement, where they take blood out, your own blood out, they spin it. They take the platelets, the blood platelets, and they inject it back into the tendon, and the platelets are, they help the healing process.
Right.
So that seems to be the up-and-coming treatment for tendonitis. Epicondylitis is what it's called. And, what you can do before you go to that extreme, though, is if you do have discomfort in the elbow, you got to work on stretching the muscles in both usually on the underside, the flexors, by taking your hand and just pulling your fingers back a little bit so that you get a stretch on the underside of the forearm, and then doing the same where you kind of rotate your hand over and rotate and stretch the muscles on the top part of the forearm. You also need to do some exercises to strengthen those particular muscle groups. Especially you want to get balance back, so you want to do a little bit more on the extensor side than on the flexor side. But early treatment is ice. If you injure it, you want to get ice on it for about 15 minutes or so after you play golf. And if it's chronic, you can try moist heat. But again, it's really one of those things where you just got to try to give it some rest. It takes a long time, and so it's something you want to try to avoid.
Well, and you raise an interesting point as well, Bob, about the cortisone shots, and this went right into really what I talked about a little while ago. Is a lot of times we end up masking the problem with sort of temporary solutions. I mean, the cortisone shot might bring relief, but if you're going out there and continuing to play with that injury just because your arm feels a little bit better or your elbow feels better, is not necessarily a good thing. So I think there's a lot of things. The stretching is a great point, but I think sometimes when you get to the point where you've sustained that injury, I think rest is probably the best course of action to do, so you don't further damage anything or make the matter worse. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the blood as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think wasn't that something that Tiger had done or there was certainly reports that Tiger had done that very procedure in with some of his injuries. I'm not quoting that here, but I seem to remember reading some stories in that about Tiger Woods, and I think there's others that have been doing it as well. What you're referring to about drawing the blood out and then spinning it and then putting it back in to help repair.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing called platelet-rich plasma (PRP) treatment, which basically you take your blood, your own blood, you spin it and stick the platelets back in. And then we're starting to hear more about a more extreme, a more aggressive treatment, and that's stem cell.
Right.
That's basically harvesting your own stem cells out of your hip and spinning those and putting those back. But we need to see more research on that. Those forearm pads too, not a pad, but the strap that goes around your forearm, and you can tighten it up so that you put pressure on the muscle, tends to help relieve the discomfort as well in the interim while you rehab the elbow. Yeah,
there's a lot of great things, and Bob, I know that you do a lot of research in addition to helping people, but you do a lot of research, and you post a lot of that up on your website. Let's quickly tell them where they can go. I mean, obviously we want them to wait until after the show to go and do that, but let's tell them where they can go to get some of that information on not only getting the assessments, how they can go about doing that, but also I know you've got some video and you've also got some great articles that you've put up there, not only that you've done, but also others that you're sharing on the fitness side of things. So where can they go to learn some more information about getting in shape?
Yeah, thanks. It's at golffitcarolina.com. It's one F and one T, so it's GOLFIT Carolina.com.
Perfect. And I would strongly suggest and urge anybody listening to the program, of course, after the show, we still got lots more to talk about, to visit Bob's website. There is a lot of good. I've certainly visited many times myself, and a lot of great information on there. And, of course, he's got ways of communicating with him if you're interested in having an assessment done. Or maybe you're somebody in the golf business and you want to incorporate that. Maybe you're a coach or teacher and you want to maybe work with somebody that handles more of the fitness side of things. Bob's definitely a great person to get in touch with and reach out to, and he can certainly help guide you in any way that you might need. So certainly go to golffitcarolina.com and check out Bob's information there. Matthew, I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity as well. I visited last night Matthew's new website, Game Like Training. So let's do this here. There's really two parts to this question. First part is, what is your role as a coach? And then I want you to tell us about Game Like Training and what does it consist of?
All right. What is my role as a coach? My role as a coach is to inspire other golfers to be the best that they can be. That is my role as a golf coach.
That puts it simple. You can't get any better than that.
Let's talk about. A lot of the times people overcomplicate things, and they can. You could put a 20-line paragraph together, or you could put 50 bullet points of what your roles are and your responsibilities and duties. But ultimately, it's your job to inspire whoever you are, whoever you're working with, whether it's a junior, whether it's somebody older. Your job is to inspire that person, to have them engaged, and to have fun playing golf.
We talked about this, I think it was a few weeks back. I know it was probably last month when you were on the show, and I think this was one of the questions that was posed. But I think there's a lot of misunderstanding what really the role of an instructor or coach is. And what I mean by that is it's not so much about us giving you a game to play. It's about really opening up your potential by giving you the tools on how to play better golf. As an example, by teaching you the fundamentals and understandings of good grip, a good posture, good balance, good swing, that sort of thing, and alignment. There's a lot of tools that we're going to give you as instructors and as coaches, but it's really how you put them together. Now, we're going to show you how to put them together and ultimately give you the proper sequence of events, if you will. But ultimately, it depends, as we talked about here a moment ago, it depends on you really finding your rhythm and your tempo for your swing. Don't try to copy somebody else's. So really, as a coach or instructor, that's really what we want to be able to do, is to give you the basic fundamentals, and then the rest of it really is to inspire you to want to go out and practice what you've learned. In other words, it's like going to a classroom and you're learning from a teacher, whether it be history, geography, or whatever the course might be. They're going to give you the basics, but it's how you put that all together and how you formulate that is going to dictate what the results are going to be. So let's talk about let's talk about game-like training. This is something that you're working on right now. What is game-like training? Tell us first off, what does it mean by that, and what it consists of?
Well, game-like training is pretty much what it says right there. It is training and practicing in a form which is as close to the real game as possible. It's widely known that that's how we learn best. If we want to learn something, then we have to practice whatever it is that we want to learn. So if we're trying to learn different skills in golf, different types of shots in golf, then we have to learn them in a game-like manner. We can't stand there and beat ball after ball after ball and on a range to one target and then expect to be able to go out on the golf course and play 72 different shots.
Right.
We have to try to simulate, and I'll go into it now. So that what it consists of is basically four things. It's all about recreating the environment that you're going to be faced with in a tournament, or you might be faced with. Maybe you'll be faced with it, or maybe not, but it's better to be prepared for an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So recreating is one of the cornerstones, which is just trying to recreate the environment you might be faced with. And then the following cornerstone is simulating. It's very closely intertwined with recreating, but simulating has a slightly different twist to it. It's more about simulating the intensity, the feelings, the emotion side. So it's the things like when you're playing in a tournament, there's a score on the line, you might win something, your friends are watching, your parents are watching, you pay to play the tournament, there's a trophy, you're playing an AJGA, or you're playing against people in the club championship, there's something on the line, so you have to try to simulate something that is to train for what's going to happen in a tournament. And then really leads on to chunking, which is, like a person's ability to remember things you've done in practice. So if you've been out on the golf course and you've practiced game-like and you've hit 72 different shots, if you go and play a tournament, you're more likely to be able to access one of the shots you might be faced with from how you've practiced. Because when do you ever get a 6-iron on a flat lie, 170 yards perfectly straight with no wind? It's not often you get that, is it? So most of the time, for me anyway, I'm in a plug bunker, I'm on a side hill lie, I have a 20-yard shot out of the bunker with about 6 feet of green to work with. So, we have to practice that, and then regulating is the final cornerstone. And it's just about creating goals, tracking your progress, and reflecting on what you've done to see whether you're improving or you're declining. And that's it. That's what game-like training is.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize one word in that program, and it is game. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people, it's not range-like training, it's game-like training. Exactly. And that's important. It's important to emphasize. And I think a lot of good coaches and I think most of them now in the industry are starting to realize that. But this is something that I think has really been a movement, if you will, in the last few years particularly, where more and more coaches and instructors are starting to recognize let's get the students out in real-life situations, as you said, and sort of, put them under the gun a little bit, but also in real-life situations. You can teach somebody the fundamentals on the range and you can teach them the basics, but you can't teach them how to play golf on the range. You can only give them the tools and the equipment. You can teach them certain things out on the golf course that you cannot teach them on the range. You can tell them about it on the range, but they're not going to be able to visualize it. They have to be put into that scenario, if you will, as you said, and simulate what it is that they may be faced with. And by putting all of those components together is going to allow them the opportunity to recall that at a later point. As you said, 72 different shots. What's easier to be able to take to the golf course? If you've got one shot, as you said, a 6-iron, 170 yards with no wind on a flat lie, how many times are you going to play that shot on a golf course? Maybe if you're lucky, maybe one or two times. At least any of the games and I'm like you, in the games I've played, I'm, if not in the bunker, you're on a downhill, side hill lie, or uphill, whatever trees in front and around. So there's a lot of different scenarios. So you have to be able to practice all those things. So let's tell them, and I know this is something fairly new that you're working on. Let's tell them how they can go to your website. Let's give them the website information. And I really want you to go. I was very impressed with this. I had a look at it last night and was very impressed with what you're trying to do there. And I think it's going to be very successful in accomplishing that. So let's tell them the website, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Creating a bit of a buzz about it. It's really exciting. The website is gameliketraining.wix.com, and it's all over Facebook. You can find it on Facebook, Game Like Training, Google Plus. It's everywhere. It's everywhere online, so you can find it just by typing in Game Like Training. Most of the things that I do, all the content that I create, all the videos, all the freebies, they're all online on the website. So that's where everything's housed mostly on the website, which is gameliketraining.wix.com.
Yeah, and you do a lot of things. I noticed you had some great juniors on there. I watched a little bit of the video, and you really explain very well what it is, that the concept that you're trying to put forth here, and I think it's great. And I think for those that are listening to the program, especially those of you in the business, I've seen a lot of different websites and certainly some great websites, but I see a lot of repetitiveness, and I like what it is that you're trying to do with your website and getting that information out. So for those of you in the business, if you're a coach or instructor, take a look at Matthew's website. We'll give that information again before we sign off a little bit later for both of you. But definitely, I always try to encourage those particularly in the business, also those students out there or those amateurs out there that want to get some information as well and maybe connect, but particularly some of those in the industry. I think it's a good idea to research and check one another out and see. We can always all learn something from one another, so by all means do that. Guys,
I love feedback as well, Ted. I love people to comment and to ask me questions about it and to question some things, to challenge some things. I think that's amazing, because it can only add to collaborating and creating and evolving something even better.
Exactly, and I think it's important. And I think, and my last part of it here, and I know that this is not something necessarily that both of you per se specialize in your fields, but it's something that's important to the game, and it's really the mental side of the game. There's two components really. There's sort of the negative, and then there's the positive. And there's a lot of questions that people ask themselves. I'm going to read out just some of the questions that get asked as an individual, both that are in a positive light, and then I'm just going to read something real quick here, and then we'll have some discussion, Bob and Matthew, about this. Here's a list of lousy questions that a lot of people ask themselves, and the first one being obviously is, why did I play so lousy? What's wrong with my golf game? Why can't I ever win? So if the lousy question, I know they're kind of generic, but it's true. I mean, in some fashion, it may not be exactly that way. These are questions that everybody, I don't care what level you are. Obviously, the pros have learned to navigate away from that a little better than some of the amateurs out there. But the amateurs do that. They get frustrated because of their play. A lot of times because more often than not they're maybe working on the wrong things. So that list of lousy questions sort of produces, of course, lousy answers. So really, what should we be doing instead? Well, how about asking a good question? Getting a helpful answer that would improve your thoughts and emotions and help you score to your true sort of golfing potential. And the good news is there's a list of questions to generate helpful answers, and here's just some of the questions. What is one thing I did well today? So when you're out in the golf course, rather than looking at, gosh, I hit in that bunker on hole number 4 and I thinned it over the green, why not take a look at that great shot that you hit on hole number 7 and focus on that? So refocus your efforts is one way to look at it. Another question that you hear a lot of times is, where do I want to hit this shot? So in other words, asking yourself in a positive light, where do I want to navigate the ball? Where do I want to put it and hit that good shot? And again, this sort of goes back to what I just said a second ago. What was my best golf shot today? So instead of looking at the worst golf shot I made and focusing and dwelling on that and letting that sort of fester up, focus on the good shots that you hit. And then also, of course, this falls into our category, really all three, is who can help me reach my golfing potential? So here's the question that I want to put to both of you guys. The mental side and the emotional side of golf is very, very important. Bob, I know you specialize in the fitness side, but the question really is, how do we get people to be more motivated to want to look at the physical side of themselves in order to be able to help them play better golf? What can we do both as instructors or coaches and also fitness instructors? How can we sort of work together to mesh this all about and say, okay, guys, instead of going out and, as I said earlier, spending $400 or $500 on a brand new driver or a new set of clubs, there's another tool in the bag that we can be working on, and that's ourselves. So how can we motivate people and get sort of positive thoughts going in there, Bob?
Well, I think it's a lot of it's the education and the awareness that looking at those spokes of the player development wheel can make a difference. The realization too, as you had mentioned, that it doesn't take hours in a gym to really improve. As a matter of fact, for most of the golfers that I work with, you don't even need to go to a gym because most need work on flexibility and range of motion, and that's stuff that you can do anywhere, in your home. But I think it's important that you get together with a certified trainer so that you can identify those deficiencies and then be given specific exercises to work on those. And then you have to do them. I mean, they're not tough. They're not labor-intensive. As a matter of fact, I get a lot of golfers, when I get done with them, giving them their corrective exercise program, they come in and envision, like you had mentioned, that they're going to be working on the big bulky equipment and doing chest presses and doing lat pulls and leg extensions, where we don't do any of that. I mean, basically it's exercise tubes and bands and stability balls, but even before you get to that, for many, many golfers, it's the range of motion and the flexibility. So, it's something where you have to put a little effort into it. I mean, it's not going to come, just by thinking about it. You just can't go out and drop $300, $400 and buy a new driver and think it's going to improve your game because you still have that same engine, that same mechanism that's swinging that new driver. So you really need to work on that first, and it doesn't take a whole lot.
No, and that's so true, and I can't emphasize this enough. There is so much misinformation that has come out in the industry over the years, and a lot of it's been through very effective marketing. That the quickest and surest way to being a better player is in equipment or even sometimes in the teaching and so forth. And certainly there is a little bit of truth to all of that. But at the same time, we have to take a look at ourselves. We have to be, first off, we need to be assessed physically to make sure that we're looking and dealing with the deficiencies that we may have on a physical side of things. But also we need to be honest and truthful to ourselves of what we feel is realistic. In other words, in our goal setting, and this is something, Matthew, that I want you to chime in now on the sort of different physical side and the coaching and the teaching side. How important is it for us to make sure that whatever student, whatever level that we're working with, that when we do our assessments and we're asking them questions and listening to their responses, that they're being realistic in their goals and expectations of what to expect, not only with their golf game, but also with their coaching and teaching experience?
Yeah, it's the key thing there, what you said was assessment. You know, you have to find, do your very best to find where that person's at there and then. And mostly, you know, there's a lot of assessments and skills tests where you can find out where their abilities are skill-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that is a constant battle, and it'll constantly grow and evolve and change, is where they're at psychologically.
Yeah, and that's so...
I would quite happily, in fact, I would love to give away what's called the self-regulation form, which is basically a psychological profiling form, and it's just a bunch of questions. It's not too long. It's just a bunch of questions that I give every golfer I come into contact with, and so far it's been the most successful as to giving me an idea of where this person is psychologically. I would love to give that away to as many people as possible to try it and, you know, to test it. But
well, I'll tell you what, Matthew. Here's what we can do. I don't know if you have a link for it or not, but I would love it if you send me that link, email me that link, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put that up through my social media, but also that's something that I think that maybe we'll have a discussion about on the show and talk about that, because I think that would be a great idea. I think there's not just the physical assessments that need to be done, but the mental assessment as well. And a lot of people might be listening to the program and thinking, Lord, I mean, we got to go through all this. I just want to play better golf. The truth of the matter is, if you want to play better golf, you do have to do these things. I've made no bones about this over the years as an instructor and coach myself. If you want to play better at anything, it doesn't matter whether it's golf, tennis, football, the truth of the matter is, and I will hopefully not be the last to say this, I'm sure I'm not the first, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you are being told that I can give you a magic bean and you're going to go out and play better golf, you're being lied to. The truth of the matter is, all of these different things can work and do work. All of these little gadgets that we see all the time down at the shows, on TV, they do work. They do have a function. The clubs will work to a certain degree. They will certainly help. But the key ingredient, if you will, into playing better golf is you need to go out there with the information that you've been given, whether it be by your coach or by your instructor or whether you just watched a video. You need to put it in practice, and you need to work on it. And the more that you work on it, the more – this is why people like Tiger Woods and Rory and all of these other great players and Annika, why they are so successful at their craft is because they went out and they took the information that they learned and strived along the years, and they put it into practice, and they worked on it, and they worked on it again. If you're getting a golf lesson this week and you're going to have another one maybe either 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the road, and you make one trip to the range or even to the course in between that period, and then you come for your next lesson and wonder why you're still hitting the same lousy shots, there's a reason for that. It's because you're not putting things into motion. The same thing on the physical side, Bob. If we're out there and we're not getting ourselves assessed and looking and focusing on these deficiencies and doing some of the exercises, some of the techniques to help increase those deficiencies, or rather decrease those deficiencies, then we're not going to get better that way either. So let's be real and let's have this discussion, ladies and gentlemen that are tuning into the show, and let's not beat ourselves over the head. And if you're wondering why you're still a 25 handicap, that's the reason why you're a 25 handicap. And not a scratch golf.
I'm wondering why I still can't bench press 200 kilograms. I went to the gym like 8 months ago, but I went the other day and I couldn't do it. I just wondered why.
Well, exactly, and this is the thing, and deep down people know that, but it's just that again, this is where the assessments come in. Guys, I want to thank both of you for Coach's Corner. Some interesting discussion tonight. I think we talked about some things that I hope will help and I hope will sink in. And I have one final question that I'm going to quickly answer, and then I want to move on. We're going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Open, of course, since we are on the eve of the first round. And this really question, I think, is really not just pertinent to golf, but really everything in life. And the question really is, how important is it to fail? And I think it's extremely important. And the reason why I say this, and I want to clarify this so that there's no misunderstandings out there. Everybody at some point in their life is going to fail on some level, some more than others, some even worse than others. The reason why it's important to fail along the way is that's how we truly learn. We learn from our mistakes. Anybody that goes through life constantly in a successful mode, in the sense that they've never had any failures, at some point they're going to be up for a rude awakening. Now, some can certainly learn very quickly from very minor mistakes and carry that through, and more often will have more successes. But some of the most intelligent people on this planet, if you read their information or you study their books and listen to their tapes, will tell you the same thing. You will fail at something at some point in your life. It's how you handle that failure. The same thing with golf. You're going to hit bad shots. You're going to hit less greens this week maybe than you did last week, especially if you're not doing the work in between. But if you learn through your failures as you go along, and you truly do, again, a self-assessment on yourself of, why did I fail? Why did I not do this, or why did I not do that? You're going to see an improvement over time, because what you'll do is you'll learn the reasons why. And this is where a good coach, whether it be a fitness coach or whether it be a golf coach, can come into play, because they can help you train your brain, if you will, on how to assess your failures. If you're not somebody that's good at doing that, what better person to go to than somebody that's trained in how to be successful in golf or be successful in fitness. So this is something that I think is very, very important, and a lot of people overlook. They beat themselves up, like we talked about just a moment ago, with the mental side of the game. People go out to the range or they'll go out to the golf course and they'll play a lousy round of golf, and instead of focusing on the positive and the good things that they did out there, they focus solely on all the bad shots they hit. So the very next time they go to the golf course, they're not remembering the good shots they hit, they're just remembering the bad ones. And so this is something that we have to retrain ourselves. And I don't know whether either one of you have a comment or want to add to that. Okay, Matthew.
That's it. That's what you can do. Retrain your brain. That's where that's the underlying thing. If I was to say this to you very quickly, Ted, 2 plus 2 is 4. Yep. 3 plus 3 equals 15. 5 plus 5 equals 10. Tell me something about what I just said to you.
You can't add, for one. But
Why? Why? What did you know?
Well, I noticed that the 3 plus 3 is 6, not 15.
Yeah, not 15. But so that's one that was wrong. But the other 2 were correct. Why didn't you tell me that 2 were correct? Why did you tell me 1 was wrong?
Because you're automatically, for some reason, it's human nature. We look for
there we go.
The wrong answers. And this is what the difference between successful people and people that are not successful is. They've learned that lesson. And this is a lesson that I promise you, those of you listening out there tonight, or those that you may tune in later listening to the recorded version of the program, hear this if you hear nothing else about tonight. If you focus on the negative aspects of your game continually, you will never, and I mean you will never, improve. If you retrain yourself and focus on the positive aspects, learn from the negative aspects of your game, learn valuable lessons through that, and again, work with a great coach or instructor, again, whether it be the physical fitness side of it or even the mental side of it. If you connect with somebody that can help you sort those areas out, I promise you will reduce your handicap. Don't waste $400 on another driver, because that's not going to bring your handicap down. You might hit the ball a little bit further. You might even hit a little bit straighter, but you're not. The reason why I say this is for about the last 20 years, handicaps have barely gone down, despite all of the technological information, despite all the great teaching and coaching out there. And it's because it's not that the teaching and the coaching or the equipment is bad. It's because the way people are utilizing that information. They're not focusing on the positives that they're learning. They're focusing on the negative reactions that they're having. So retrain your brain. That's all I'm going to say on that. Bob, do you have any thoughts on that, or are we good?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, you hit a good point. You got to be positive in this game. You can't let the game get to you. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I've played with golfers that would get up to a hole, a par 3 that has a pond in front of it, and will literally say out loud, "I'm going to hit it in the water," and sure enough, they hit it in the water. And then the thing is, when you do hit a bad shot, instead of getting angry, instead of slamming your club, you have to kind of step back and try to, like you say, learn from your mistakes. Okay, what did I do wrong? What's my divot look like? Try to focus on your swing. Ask the golfers that are with you and stuff like that. And that's what the teaching professional is all about as well, to help you kind of get into those good hitting positions. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to be positive with this game. You got to have fun. That should be the main reason you're out there playing. And, you definitely want to, stay in shape and work with a teaching pro so that you can play this game forever.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of golf. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about the game, more so than many of the other games out there, and certainly I've played quite a few. I've played baseball, football, hockey, soccer, tennis, you name it. I've pretty much played basketball a little bit here and there. But the one great thing about golf is, unlike some of the other sports, is many of the other sports, once it comes to a certain point, a certain age, and your abilities obviously decrease, and it's just you're not always able to go out there and run 100 yards down the field with the football, or get out. Even sometimes in the tennis, it can be very high impact and can be very hard on some of the areas. Golf is something that one of the very few sports, and certainly not saying it's the only one, but one of the very few sports that you can play very late in life. I mean, I've known many people in their 90s to this day that still go out there, and they may not play a full 18 anymore, but they'll get out there and play as many as they can. Usually they can hit 9 holes, but they're out there playing, and they're having a lot of fun. And it's just a great social aspect as well. All right, guys, as I promised, we're going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Open, and I got a couple of things here I want to talk about before we wrap up the evening. Obviously, we're as I said many times tonight, we're on the cusp, if you will, or on the eve of the first round for the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay. Very interesting course. I don't know how much you guys have seen of it throughout the day or throughout the week. Matthew, I'll let you start first. What do you think of the course?
Oh, treacherous. Jeez, have you seen the undulations on that place? No, it looks incredible. It reminds me very much of back in England. There's a few courses that are very similar in design around Liverpool area, and it really, really reminds me of a few courses like Southport and Ainsdale and places like that. The undulations are just ridiculous. But then again, I mean, 5 under, tied first at the top. 5 under's that's a pretty good score to get off and running with. Yeah,
exactly. And we're going to talk about it. Yeah, talk about a couple of the players here in a minute. Bob, I don't know how much you have been able to filter in over the day or the last few days, but what were your thoughts on the course?
Well, I was just watching it before the show here, and I just can't believe how many short putts are being missed. So, that fescue grass, whether that's all over the course, I guess is playing a little havoc with golfers. But it looks like an interesting course.
Yeah, and that was something that caught my eye. When they first started announcing it here in the last week, I had not really taken a look at the course until here lately, and I was actually kind of taken back because this is not really what you traditionally is a U.S. Open golf course. Pinehurst, has held the U.S. Open for many years, and that's what I envision as a U.S. Open course. Tree-lined fairways, and not maybe necessarily a lot of undulation in the fairway. Certainly some tricky, slick, fast greens, perhaps. Certainly some bunkers. They've obviously held the Open at Oakmont and a lot of other great courses around, but just not what I envisioned. So when I first started seeing images of Chambers Bay, I was actually really quite shy. I said, we're watching the U.S. Open or are we watching the British Open? I wasn't really sure what we were getting ready to watch here, Matthew, as you alluded to. One of the things that I wanted to ask both of you is, and there's obviously going to be different answers here, but physically, Bob, this is a big tournament. There's a lot of things that a player needs to do in order to prepare for this. Physically, what does a player, in your mind, should be? And obviously, we're talking about a much higher caliber player here than our average handicapper. But let's just sort of use it on both perspectives here. For the better players, and obviously our higher handicap players are going out, maybe playing in their own big event. How does a player prepare for something like a U.S. Open?
Well, I mean, I think that just like any other tournament, you want to get out there and get a lay of the land. This course is unique in that it was built on that landmine, the landmine sand mine, and I guess it's got kind of a man-made mountain that the players have to walk up and down several times during the round. As Justin Rose says, fitness is definitely going to play a part in this Open. The other thing is, just like in the British Opens, I think it's a little bit tougher on the players. I mean, weather-wise, we're going to have some decent temperatures out there. I think I saw like in the 70s, and then finally maybe Sunday it's going to hit 80. So heat is not an issue, but you've got that breeze that's constantly coming off Puget Sound. So I mean that plays havoc on you as well in terms of your game mentally, physically, because you're walking against this wind, this wind that's in your face. So that adds an element of fitness to the game, and especially when you do that over 4 days, it take a toll. So it'll be interesting to see, the elements, how the elements play on the players.
Yeah, definitely. Matthew, I know that you and I talked very briefly on the phone the other day in preparation for tonight, and one of the questions I asked you or sort of posed to you, for those of you that haven't figured out through his English accent that Matthew is from across the pond, so he's got a little bit of an inside knowledge to some of our good European players. Obviously, Chambers Bay, the site, as we mentioned, for the 2015 U.S. Open this year is certainly, from all intents and purposes, a link-style course. Do some of the European players have a little bit of advantage here?
You know what? I really do think they do. But judging by the leaderboard, it's not coming to fruition yet. But I really do. I really do think. Yeah, I think they do an advantage. Simply because they have more knowledge and more experience in that type of environment than a lot of the Americans. Typically, American golf, it's not links, is it? Whereas in the UK and mostly a lot of places in Europe, you play in a link-style course, so they definitely have an advantage. But we'll wait to see if it comes through.
Right, and really, what are some of the differences? I mean, for those that maybe have never played a link-style course, Matthew, I'm going to let you continue on with this part of the question. But obviously, most of the players that have played here in the U.S. on some of the traditional golf courses tend to play a much higher shot. Nicklaus, of course, made a career on hitting a high fade, was very successful on that. But obviously, as we saw him, navigate on some of the British Open tracks that he played over the years, he had to play a much different game. So is this something that we're going to see more of, is sort of that traditional, maybe a lower ball flight coming into some of these holes? Is that something that's going to play into it?
Yeah, I mean, this type of course, this kind of layout and design, the high shots that you would typically use on something other than a links course, they're just not going to pan out very well. It is that type of course to hit these lower ones, to hit these, bump and runs. I mean, you saw it. You see, if you watched any of the footage, a lot of the players, even Bubba Watson, has been playing a lot of bump and runs around the greens because there's that many undulations. Your ball could take bounces that you've never even seen before. So they're trying to pick places to land the ball in order to roll up different banks onto the green and things like that, and then they're hitting a lot of lower shots just to keep it not necessarily under the wind because the wind's still there, but to have a little bit more control over the ball, because the higher the ball goes, the stronger the wind gets, the less control you have over it. So you are going to see a lot more of that, definitely. And you won't see the driver half as much. I mean, just going back a number of years ago when Tiger Woods won the British Open, he took driver out of the bag once, did he? Was it once when he won by a ridiculous amount of shots?
Yeah.
So you won't see too many drives, especially from the Europeans anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I want to mention I'm going to mention some of the for those that are tuning in that maybe haven't had a chance to catch some of the scores yet. I'll just read a few here out. Tied for first, of course, is Henrik Stenson. Dustin Johnson are tied at 5 under, as you mentioned. Tied at for three is Matt Kuchar and Patrick Reed at 3 under. And here's some interesting. Here's some interesting players here. All three tied for 8th position. Phil Mickelson, Brandt Snedeker, and one of my favorites I always enjoyed was Colin Montgomery at 1 under par. And what's interesting is Monty, of course, being a little bit more seasoned veteran on the tour, knows how to play on these link-style courses. So is that going to be an advantage, do you think, a little bit for him?
I definitely think so. My only worry is would be for Colin Montgomery is the length. He doesn't have the length that a lot of these guys have these days. Now, depending on, I know the ball rolls a lot more, but depending on which way the winds are going, he potentially is struggling into comparison as a lot of the other bigger hitters. Hence why he's now playing on the senior stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my only worry for him.
Well, what's also interesting, Matthew, is you mentioned Bubba Watson. He and Adam Scott, who are both certainly Bubba Watson is I think still one of the biggest hitters on tour, and Adam Scott is certainly no slouch. They're tied for 19th at even par. It's interesting that kind of, and I don't want to say it contradicts a little bit what you were just mentioning, but we're not seeing a lot of the really big hitters up at the top of the leaderboard. Now, certainly 19th, they're not out of it yet. They're only 5 shots back. So this is not necessarily a course that's going to lend to necessarily the longest hitters. I think accuracy is going to be something a little bit more and a little more shot making on this course.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost contradictory with the having the length and not the shots. Definitely having the shots and the skills around the greens and into greens that Montgomery has is going to be a huge advantage. But early days, so I'm going to predict that the bigger hitters will climb up the leaderboard. But I mean, who knows? Who knows these days? Henrik Stenson, though, he's at the top, and he's no slouch either. He can hit the ball a mile.
Well, they can all hit a good ball, but no doubt. But I'm just talking about some of the real power hitters. This is not really a course. I don't think personally that's going to lend to some of the power hitters. Bob, I want to ask you this question. Obviously, being an American, I want to ask you this because I know that the U.S. Open and, of course, being Father's Day coming up here in just a few days, which is traditional with the U.S. Open. Why is it special for a player, number one, to put this in the win column, obviously besides being a major tournament, but being Father's Day? Well, sure, obviously it's a major tournament. It's a big feather in the cap. But I think there's also being Father's Day, I think, especially as men, I think we understand that scenario. Why do you think it's so important for so many players? We saw Tiger when he won his earlier U.S. Opens when his father was Earl Woods was still alive. It meant a lot to him. I mean, all of his tournaments have certainly, but it meant a lot to him to have his father there with him. Why do you think it's so important at the U.S. Open to shine through on Father's Day?
Well, like you said, I mean, it's one of the 4 majors, so I mean, obviously it's a big tournament. Not taking anything away from the other 3 big ones. I mean, it is the U.S. Open and Father's Day. Both of those being combined, I think, adds some weight to it in terms of, I'm sure more fathers are probably watching because it's Father's Day, so the wives and the spouses are probably letting you watch TV, letting you watch golf a little bit more. So I'm sure there's more viewership, but yeah, it is the U.S. Open.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think too, Bob. I think that when you look back, I remember very famously late Payne Stewart when he won the U.S. Open and beat Phil Mickelson. I remember that famous line that he said to Phil was, you're going to be a dad, you're going to be a father, and Payne, obviously having some great kids himself, understood that, and Phil. The reason why I'm saying that, for those of you that may not be familiar with that, was I think it was at Pinehurst, if I'm not mistaken. Payne Stewart won out over Phil Mickelson, who was really earlier in the final round was kind of favored really to win, but Payne made his charge and ultimately came through. And the significance really of that, it just shows you what a great guy Payne Stewart was, and unfortunately he's not here with us now. But was what he was really trying to say to Phil, who was expecting, he and his wife were expecting their very first child, was just the importance of being a father. You're about to, tomorrow your wife's, going to be having her first child, and you're going to be having your first child here. This is a great golf tournament. It's important, certainly, but fatherhood is something that he was trying to convey, was certainly in the forefront, and I think Phil received that very well. So there's a lot of, as you said, U.S. Open, it's a big tournament. Certainly, obviously, it's going to be well received here in the United States, but certainly a lot of players from around the world. But I think, too, there's something special about that a lot of players feel coming up those final few holes on a Sunday, knowing that it's Father's Day, and if you're going to be the winner of that, whether your father is still with you or not, there's going to be a special sentiment, I think. Would you all agree?
Oh, yeah. And then also, the major tournaments, there are a true test of golf. The conditions are immaculate. The step meters are running high. If there's rough, it's high rough or whatever. So, the courses are just primed to be tougher courses. So, it's a true test of these guys and their skills.
What's interesting too, we kind of alluded a little bit to it, and I just wanted to bring this up and kind of get both of your thoughts on this. As I mentioned earlier, traditionally the host site of the U.S. Open, more often than not, goes through changes in preparation for the event. Do they need to do anything to prepare for this weekend, or does Chambers Bay have enough challenges of his own? Matthew, I'll let you go first.
I think it has enough challenges of its own.
Traditionally the USGA, and the reason why I was alluding to that, usually the USGA, I'm not sure what the greens are rolling on the stimp meter right now, but normally they're rolling pretty slick, and they certainly tend to grow the rough a little bit thicker. But with all of the fescue, Bob, as you had mentioned, and some of the other challenges, no trees and wind coming into play a little bit more than maybe some of the other tree-lined courses. Does the USGA and others really need to do much to this course, Matthew?
I don't think, but it's happened. Just because of the sheer understanding of players. If they play the same course and they get as close to the same conditions for 4 consecutive days, the scores, on a bigger picture basis, are going to improve day by day just because they're getting more experience on the course. So I think regardless of how difficult the course is, they're still going to make it harder just knowing that. I know there might be some players in the field that if the conditions are the same, they might score worse, but for the majority, they would score better if the conditions are the same. So you're going to see it get harder. The pins are going to get tighter. The greens are going to get a little slicker. And, just the way the world works, the weather's most likely going to get a little worse.
Yeah, you might get some wind picking up and that.
Yeah.
Bob, the other thing is, talking about the scores, here we are. Now, I know it's only the end of the first round, but our leaders, our 2 leaders here are at 5 under par. That's not normal for a U.S. Open, for many of the ones that I've seen over the years. You might see 1 or 2 under par, but you don't normally see the first round. Is it going to present a challenge to the governing bodies as we move into, say, Friday and even Saturday, if suddenly we start seeing a 15 under, if that's possible? Are they going to have to make some changes, do you think?
You wonder. I mean, you wonder. You really have to study this course. I mean, just a little bit that I saw of it. The approach shots into the green. I mean, you have to be really precise with those to play the various undulations. And so I think that's why guys like Dustin Johnson may be doing well early on because of his length, and then he has a little bit easier approach shot into these very challenging greens. I mean, I saw Tiger, off the green, opted to putt versus chip. Obviously his chipping has been a little bit sour lately, but I think shot selection is going to be key. I think it's definitely going to challenge these guys, which it should. I mean, it's a major tournament. It's nice to see that they're human.
Yeah, and that's so true. And it's going to be interesting to see. And I hope he does well. I mean, I don't know where he's positioned now, but where Tiger is.
I think he's around 120th, 115th, 100 something.
He's +5, I think.
Oh, well, that's certainly not not looking good for Tiger. But to be honest, that's to be a little bit expected with the way he's played. I mean, we all know what he did at the Memorial there. He certainly did not play well, and I talked a little bit about him last week, so I won't get into it this week really with him. But there's a lot more going on than just some adjustments here and there with the swing. But that's something that Tiger's going to have to do. And to throw that word in there again, this is an assessment area really that Tiger's going to have to do and decide, what he wants to do. And some people might think he's done with Chris Como, his current coach. But Tiger really, in my opinion, has to decide really once and for all if he's going to go for it and continue on. Then there's some things internally and mentally and emotionally that I think that he needs to deal with, because this has been going on really for a long time. But we'll leave that there. Guys, the last question I want to put to you, it's too early really for any predictions, but actually I've got two questions. I take that back. Is there anyone, Bob, in your mind? Yeah, I got one more question that I want to do. Bob, is there anyone in your mind that you've seen that that's in the tournament that could be a potential winner here? Somebody that you're sort of rooting for or liking to see?
Well, I think I'm going to go with a long hitter who's going to have easier approach shots into these greens, because I'm sure the pin placements on Saturday and Sunday, well, at least Sunday, they're going to be tough. So, not that I'm going to go with a front runner, but I like Dustin Johnson's chances. I think he's due. Henrik Stenson, having played on maybe this type of course a little bit more frequently, obviously is good. And I wouldn't mind seeing Colin Montgomery up there in the hunt come Saturday and Sunday.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But it also would be nice to see Phil complete the career slam. So with his magic around the green, it might play to his advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Matthew, are we going to, and no pun intended, but are we going to see the full Monty this weekend? Is Colin going to come through, or are we going to see?
I think it would be amazing for him, but I'm not going to put any money on it. I'm not going to put any of my dollars on that, but it would be great for him. No, I'm going to hold out. I'm going to hold out for Justin Rose, and maybe another one to think about is Matsuyama.
That's an interesting choice.
Just as an outsider, maybe him.
Yeah, I'm certainly impressed with the group that's up there right now, and certainly in the top 10 area. I'm certainly impressed with. I'd love to see Phil on that. And I'm going to say that I would like to, for a couple of reasons. I would love to see Colin come through. If he plays well, and it's not a sentimental thing or anything like that, I've always liked Colin Montgomery. I think he's a good player. He's kind of feisty in that. And it's not just because he's an older player and I want him to get out there and earn it like everybody else. I don't want it to fall in his lap. If he's up at the leaderboard and somebody, stumbles at the top and he gets it, I don't want to see it like that. I want him to get out there and earn it. But it's nice to see a seasoned veteran of the game come in there and take. We all saw Tom Watson there a few years back make a charge, and unfortunately he didn't close the deal. But it was exciting, and I think it would be great for golf to see somebody like a Colin Montgomery come in and just sort of take charge like that. And that's not to say I wouldn't want to see some of the younger players out there, but I just think it would be a really interesting sort of change, if you will, to the U.S. Open. But we'll have to see. And my final question, guys, is this. If you could bend the ear of any player that's out there and give them some advice coming in here, what would you say to them? What would you tell them to a player going into the U.S. Open? Matthew, since you spoke up, I'm going to let you go first, and then Bob, I'll let you.
If I give anybody just a random person advice,
yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's say it's Justin. Well, since you threw him under the bus there, Justin Rose. What would you tell Justin Rose coming into the U.S. Open?
God.
What would you advise?
Come on, what a question. What would I tell Justin Rose if he was going into it?
Yep.
I don't know. I'd probably reach out to Sean Foley and copy whatever he said.
It's a tough question.
Tough question.
It is. It's a good one. You know what? I don't think I'd ask anything to do with golf. I'd just ask him how life is.
Interesting.
I think if these guys going into this tournament, if they're at this level and they're playing that tournament, they kind of know what they're doing. So I'm going to ask them something else that might take the mind off of it.
I'll accept that. That's a bit of a cop-out, but I'll accept that, Matthew. Not a problem. Bob, if you could bend the ear of any player that's currently in the U.S. Open this year, what would you have any advice for them, or would you what would you say to them if you had their ear for let's say a few moments?
Well, I mean, obviously I don't have the credentials, but I would go after some of the unknowns and just say have fun and just go for it. You know, it's the U.S. Open. I mean, it's the tournament that anybody can win. Even the amateurs up there. I mean, there's some amateurs here that are in the +2, +3 area. So just kind of hang tight, have fun.
Yeah. I'm going to take a player who I just mentioned a few moments ago, and I'm going to say what I would say to him if I had his ear. Not that it's ever likely going to happen, but I'm going to talk about Tiger Woods. And I think what I would say to Tiger is this. I would say that you know what your abilities are. You know the tournaments that you've won. You know that the abilities are within you. Go out this week and, most importantly, have fun. Don't worry about whether you win or lose the tournament. Just go out and have fun and enjoy it, and just know that you're still among the best players in the world. It doesn't matter what happened last week. Just go out and deal day by day, hole by hole on this course, and do what you know. I know that he has within him the ability to win. I think we'd be a fool if we didn't agree with that. We know that he has the ability. There's something much bigger that's been going on with Tiger Woods for some time now, and I think it's a matter of it can be everything from confidence to emotions and what have you. But I would say to him, much like you said, Bob, I think I would want him to go out there and just have fun and not worry about it. I know it's an important tournament. I know you want to go there to win, and I'm not saying don't think about winning, but if you don't win, it's not the end of the world. You've got many other opportunities to come back. Just get out there and have fun and just play the best golf that you know you're capable of playing, and don't worry about what everybody else thinks or what they think you should be doing. And that's what I would say to Tiger Woods. And on that note, guys, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. It's been fun, and I appreciate, I know that, again, this is a big tournament week and coming into the weekend here, so I know how valuable everybody's time is. And I want to thank all of the listeners, of course, for tuning in tonight. But my very special guest tonight, Mr. Bob Foreman, Mr. Golf Fit Carolina himself, Bob, very quickly let everybody know the website again and where they can go and get some more information, and then Matthew, I'll let you do the same.
Sure, thanks, Ted. It's Golf Fit Carolina, 1F1T, so it's GOLFITCarolina.com. I also have a book, Functional Golf Fitness Training, which you can get electronic copy on Amazon or a print copy at the Book Patch. You can reach me at bob@golffitcarolina.com if you have any questions about your golf fitness program as well.
Fantastic. And again, let me just say I strongly urge, particularly not just the players, but any of the coaches or teaching professionals that are tuning into this program, if you haven't already done so, by all means, please get in touch with Bob Foreman. He's certainly, in my opinion, one of the best in the fitness game, and I know that he can help you make your approach better, if you will, on the fitness side of things with some of your students, and he may have some great programs that he can help put in place, or maybe he can collaborate with you. I'll leave that up to you guys, but definitely get in touch with Bob Foreman. And, of course, Matthew Cook, another great coach and teacher professional out there. Matthew, tell the folks how they can get in touch with you and how they can and connect.
Yeah, they can. I've got a bunch of social media stuff out there, but you can find on Facebook, Twitter, etc. Matthew Cook or Game Light Training. But mainly, if anybody wants to reach out and connect, go to gamelighttraining.wix.com. And I have my books on there, my workbooks are on there, all my blogs and my education and everything about what Game Light Training is. And the workbooks are the most amazing thing because they possess tons of games, performance games, skills challenges, and things like that to help with not just golf coaches but players improve how they practice, which is game-like. So my website is the best place to contact me, and that's, like I say, gamelighttraining.wix.com. And I'll send you the link and things over, Ted, so you have that as well.
That sounds good. Thank you very much. Bob and Matthew, again, as always, thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live and being part of not only the Coach's Corner panel, but some interesting discussion about the U.S. Open. Enjoy the tournament this weekend. And I'm not sure if you're both in this category, but if you are, happy Father's Day coming up on Sunday.
You
no.
And I'll hold off on that one.
Yeah, I'll hold off on that one too. But anyways, if not, for all of you fathers out there, happy Father's Day. But guys, thank you very much, and I look forward to having you back on. And I think I mentioned this to you the last time, Bob, but I would love a copy of your book. I don't think I ever got one, but I'll reach out to you off air, and I would love to get a copy of the book. But guys, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much as always for coming on and sharing your insight and great thoughts. I know that the audience that listens in every week enjoys the input that I get from some of the people that come on here onto the program, and you two certainly do a fantastic job. So thank you very much for giving your time. Go and enjoy the U.S. Open and your weekend, and I look forward to having you guys come back on here in the next little while. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, Ted.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Appreciate
All right, thank you. That was my very special guest tonight on this live presentation of Golf Talk Live, talking about the U.S. Open, of course, at Chambers Bay, and also talking about some areas of golf fitness and also in the teaching side of golf, trying to really showcase a lot of the professionals that come on the program and give them an opportunity to really talk about what they do. And just enjoy, it's always a great learning experience, and I hope that you not only learn from them, but maybe you learn some things from me as well. I really enjoy doing this program each and every week. And for those of you, just a quick roundup of the show. For those of you that maybe are tuning in for the first time, I want to thank you and welcome you to Golf Talk Live. It's a really great program. I've got I certainly have a lot of enjoyment and pleasure of putting the show together each and every week. It's on every Thursday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Best way to get there is blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or you can just go to blogtalkradio.com and up in the search key, you can type Golf Talk Live, and that'll bring you to the main page. And each Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, at the top of the page there, once you've logged in, And you can certainly access it not just with your computer, but with a smartphone or iPhone on travel. I've had many people driving down the interstates that listen to the program as well. So anywhere around the world, you can tune into this program. It's one of the beauties of some of the formats that are available out there now. But you can listen to it on your mobile device as well. It's not just made for your main computer at home. But for those of you that are tuning in, thank you very much. And also on that main page, what I was starting to say is the current show is always at the top. But once it's and it is live from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Thursdays. But once you've listened to the program, if you've missed any of the previously aired shows, you can go to that main page, blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. And if you scroll down a little bit further on the page, you'll see what's called the on-demand section, very much similar to what you have in the cable programs. And you can go through and you can see the titles and a little bit of synopsis. It'll tell you a little bit of information about each of the shows, who the guests were, and so forth, and the dates, of course. And you can listen to the previously aired programs. And there's quite a few of them there now over the last several years, so lots to go in. So if you've missed any of the earlier ones, go back in and listen to them. Some great information, some great guests that have joined me along the way. And I always, as I said, enjoy putting this show together. I think it's a valuable tool, not only to help some of the amateur golfers out there improve their game, but also give some information, a little bit of insight for some of the coaches and the teaching professionals out there as well. Many of them also tune in to the program and learn from one another. Here in the Coach's Corner panel, as an example, we have some great discussion. Sometimes we'll field some questions that have been sent in to me through the audience, and a lot of times we'll answer those questions. Or like tonight, I'll put some questions together myself based on the individuals that I come on their field of expertise, whether they're a teaching professional or coach, or maybe as Bob was a golf fitness instructor. I'll tailor some questions there that I feel will help get the information out to you guys out there, both in the profession but also at the amateur level as well. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank, of course, all of the listeners worldwide for faithfully tuning into Golf Talk Live each week. As I said, I get a great deal of pleasure and enjoyment from having a number of highly talented coaches, teaching professionals, authors, and even some entrepreneurs that have stopped by the program. And it's really through their participation and guest appearances that have helped make Golf Talk Live a first-class show. Also, I want to give a special thank you. Last week, I got a little bit short on my time. I want to thank some folks that really have been great supporters and sponsors of the program. Mr. Jonathan Laird, who's been a big supporter of the program, and of course he is the owner and editor of South Coast Golf Guide, who if you've tuned into for any length of time to this program, you've heard me mention his name many times. Jonathan Laird at South Coast Golf Guide. It's a small publication that's been around for over 20 years here in the southeastern part of the United States that really ranges from Texas right over here to the northwest part of Florida, all the states in between. There's about 5 or 6 states, I believe, in there. And it really showcases some of the great tracks, some of the great golf courses in that area, has all of their information on how to contact them. So if you're planning on vacationing down here in the southeastern part of the United States at any time throughout the year, of course, we pretty much golf all year round down here, which is one of the beauties of living in the southeastern part of the United States, especially in Florida. A lot of great courses in the guide. So go to southcoastgolfguide.com. and you can request a copy through there. Or if you happen to be down here, just visit most of your local pro shops in the area, Edwin Watt stores, things like that, and more often than not, most of them are carrying a copy in there. So just ask them if they carry the South Coast Golf Guide, and if not, as I said, go to the website southcoastgolfguide.com, and you can request a copy through Jonathan Laird. And if you're interested in advertising in the guide, if you're a course or maybe a business and you think you would like to get into some advertising in there, it's a very well published publication and very well received in the area. You can contact him at Jonathan Laird at South Coast Golf Guide. It's Jonathan at South Coast Golf Guide is his email address. So it's Jonathan at southcoastgolfguide.com. Meredith Kirk, of course, from Meredith Kirk Golf. And also the Endless Golf Myrtle Beach magazine. And she was also the Mrs. South Carolina in 2014 and entered into the Mrs. USA pageant last year as well. She's been on the show a few times and a great supporter of the program, and thank you to her. She's out in the Myrtle Beach area, of course. Great instructor, great teacher professional, and does a lot of great work for junior golf. She has the junior Golf Exchange, which is a program that she's running to help put some equipment, some clubs, and that in some youngsters' hands that maybe don't have the ability to do so on their own. So she does a great program. So go to I believe it's juniorgolfexchange.org, I believe is the organization that she's put together. So visit the website there. Nikki and Tiffany Litherland become some very good supporters of the program over the time, originally from down under, some mates from Australia, now over here in the United States. Nikki, of course, is a great golf professional. I'm going to have him on the show here before too long. Thank you both to him and his wife, Tiffany, for spreading the word about Golf Talk Live and all their continued support of the show. Mr. Bernie Pinder, of course, from Ontic Golf. OnticGolf.com is a great website to go and see some really high-end and really great custom putters, which I happen to own one of them, thanks to Mr. Bernie Pinder for sending that out. So go to Ontic Golf, it's ONTIC golf.com, and check out some of his great custom design putters. Mr. Sean Kelly, of course, the owner of LinkedGolfers.com. Linked Golfers, of course, originated on LinkedIn, which is a huge business social network, and Sean is the owner, if you will, and administrator of really the largest golf group on LinkedIn called Linked Golfers. I believe there's, if I'm not mistaken, nearly 40,000 members around the world. Very glad to be part of that. And he's taken that format, really taken it out onto his own business outside of that called LinkedGolfers.com. So make sure you check out the site, and it's got a lot of great information there as well. And, of course, last but not least, my good buddy, Mr. Peter Doyle, from Doyle Golf Solutions over in Ireland, always been a big supporter of the show, and he just had a birthday here quite recently. So happy birthday again, Peter, and hope you had a pint for me on your birthday. Not too many, though, but hope you had a couple there. And let me just say, lastly, I hope everybody enjoys. I hope it's an exciting U.S. Open here at Chambers Bay. I'm sure it's going to be, and I'm looking forward to getting in and watching some of the action. And for those of you that maybe didn't tune in earlier in the program, I also do another show on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Eastern Standard Time, 9 to 10 in the morning, called the Women of Golf Show. And that's alongside my co-host, LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller, who many of you know if you're in the business. She was also on the original Big Break on the Golf Channel. She was one of the participants there. But just a great teacher professional from up in the Buffalo area, and her husband, Alan Miller, who's been in the business for many, many years as well, both as a player and also as a top instructor. Great lady. We have a lot of fun. So make sure you tune in, because Cindy and I are going to have some of the highlights and talk about that next Tuesday after the U.S. Open. Of course, we're going to talk about some of the highlights from the weekend. So make sure you tune into that. And I would just like to add just a quick apology for any of the ladies who or gentlemen that tuned into last week's program. I had a little bit of a technical issue the first couple of minutes of the show. The show did go on, but what happened was I got too distracted and wasn't paying attention. I forgot to turn my mic on. So I was much like a blubbering idiot for the first couple of minutes of the show, so it was a little bit of a dead air, so I apologize, and hope you'll forgive me. But go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf and listen to the shows that Cindy and I have done. We've had some great professionals, both players, and we've been really featuring some of the Symetra Tour players, which is the launch pad, of course, for the LPGA Tour here lately over the last 4 or 5 months or so, and we hope to have some more on there as well. So 2 great shows, Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 with Cindy Miller on the Women of Golf at blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, and, of course, every Thursday night at 6 p.m. from 6 to 8 p.m. Central right here on Golf Talk Live. Enjoy the U.S. Open, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in and supporting the show. And if you want to reach out to me, and if you're interested in coming on the program as a guest or joining on the panel discussions, you can email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Again, I will see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody. Have a great weekend.